Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
The biggest difference at the Raptors between this year and last year is Kawhi Leonard. And don't tell me
100%.
that it's anything else, because it's 1,000% Kawhi Leonard. This guy has proven that he is one of, if not the top player in the league. Because for a player to come to this team that has never had any success and to be able to take them to the NBA Finals, he must be unbelievable.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, weird injuries,
Liverpool wins.
and Jordan Binnington stands on his head.
But first, the Toronto Raptors are on the verge of history.
Okay, Skip, so you know what is special about today?
Well, tell me, please.
Well, there's actually no playoff games in any sport today.
Actually, I just looked at the calendar before I called you, and I was like, yeah, when is the next Raptors game? And it's like, it's Monday. And then I'm like, there's no Stanley Cup final game tonight either. It's like weird to have a Saturday night with nothing going on, especially in Canada. We're so used to having hockey on Saturday night. I know for our American listeners, that's like not always the case, but
Yeah, there was a basketball game last night, and there's a hockey game tomorrow night. And so we figured today would be a good day to record an episode because we're not missing anything. There's nothing going on. This is what's going on, this show. So everyone is very, very excited to get this show because they have no other sports fix other than this.
and plus we missed a week. Sorry to the listeners. We just were not able to record. I was in Chicago for work, and in the past when I travel for work, I actually bring my podcast stuff with me, anticipating, that I'm going to record on the road. And I've even recorded from Chicago before and other places, but it just couldn't materialize this time with both our schedules.
You have a
So
travel
excited.
kit,
I have a travel kit. Yeah.
kind of like a doctor that makes house calls.
Yeah, exactly.
The National Basketball Association.
So I think we have to start with basketball because
Well, it's the biggest story in Canada, I think, right now.
it really is. But I'm going to start with what bothers me.
Things that bug me?
Oh, surprise, surprise. What's bugging Josh about the NBA Finals?
It's not the NBA Finals. It's that now all over Toronto and all over Ontario and all over Canada, there are like millions of fans who like a week ago could not name you one player on any NBA team. And now there's like a million fans.
There's a lot of people that I've come across with, and you've probably come across with many more being in Toronto. Like, there's people that have not watched a single basketball game all year.
Well, I actually have not watched a single basketball game all year. But the difference is I'm not one of these bandwagon people that is going to Jurassic Park and
Right.
painting my face and driving my vehicle with a flag waving out the window.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
one. I'm the only person in Toronto that doesn't care about this series.
No, but you also know about basketball. Like,
Yes, I
I
do.
know you don't watch the NBA, but like you understand the game of basketball. Like, you're a huge college basketball fan. You've seen the NBA like all your life. Maybe you don't watch that much anymore. But like, there's people that like I've come across that are like, they just don't even know what's going on in the games.
No, they don't.
You know?
They don't.
Like, you texted me, and I don't want to throw him under the bus because he's a good friend of ours. But you texted me, I think it was like last week, that like Jamie London, a mutual friend of ours, was like watching the game.
maybe we shouldn't mention his last name just to protect his identity.
Okay, too late. But like, maybe, like, I guarantee you, this guy has not watched an NBA basketball game in at least 10 years.
Well,
maybe his whole life.
He said to me in a text message, it's the first game he's watching since Larry Bird's rookie season, I think.
Exactly. Come on. I mean, so I know that's bugging you. Well, not that in particular, but just goes to show you the enormity of this series in Canada and how everybody's just getting swept up in it. Don't you find?
There's a radio station that I listen to every morning, and they do these funny things, or whatever you want to call them. They were at a concert because they always send somebody from the station to go to a concert.
Right.
And they went and they asked just random people in the crowd because the Raptors had a game that night. It was, I think, Wednesday night or Thursday night. I'm not sure. And so they sent this guy, and like, he's not a famous person. You wouldn't know who he is. And they just asked him with, he went with like, I guess he was using his phone to record people's responses. And he was asking people, if they thought a certain player was going to have a good game that night.
Right.
Okay. Except the name of the player that he used was Aaron Sanchez, who's on the baseball team, not on the basketball team.
But did he do that on purpose?
He did it on purpose.
Okay.
So he said to them, because they all knew that there was a basketball game that night, but he said, so do you think Aaron Sanchez is going to have a good game tonight? And the recordings that they let us hear, because they didn't let us hear all of them, people were like, oh yeah, I think he's going to have a great game and we're going to have a great game. And they all thought that Aaron Sanchez was a player on the Raptors.
There you go. That's all you need to know. Yeah.
So
on to the actual game.
Yes.
Are the Raptors going to win the NBA Finals?
Well, it looks pretty good right now. And I have to say, I thought it would be a short series.
I know you did. I was thinking about that last week. Yeah.
I didn't say this on our show, but someone else asked me, and I thought the Warriors would win in 6 is what I thought.
Right.
Before the series started, before I knew about all these injuries.
But on our show, you said you thought the Warriors were going to win it. You thought the Warriors. You didn't think the Raptors had much of a chance.
Right.
Actually.
I thought the Warriors would win in 6 because I thought Toronto would actually win game 1 because they had all that momentum from the Milwaukee series. And at the time, the Warriors hadn't played in what seemed like a month. And so I thought the Warriors would be rusty. The Raptors would win game 1. It was at home. And then I honestly thought the Warriors would win games 2, 3, and 4. It would come back to Toronto. The Raptors would make sure they didn't get eliminated on home court. So they'd win 1 more game, and then the Warriors would win in 6. Obviously, there's no chance of that happening.
Well, no, the Warriors only have one path now. It's game 7.
Well, they have to sweep. They have to win 3 in a row.
And, they have to win 2 games in Toronto. So, I just don't see it happening because the Raptor. Well, I mean, look, there's a couple things going on. First of all, Durant. I mean, we don't know. We know how big of an impact it is, but we kind of forget because the Warriors handled the Blazers without Durant. Mm-hmm. So you kind of think like, oh, they're still really good, but they need him, they need him. And then obviously Klay Thompson and all the injuries that they have. I mean, I know Klay Thompson played last night, but was he healthy? Was Looney healthy? No, I don't think Iguodala is healthy. He sucks anyways. And I just think the last 2 games, the Raptors kind of manhandled the Warriors. Last night, did you ever think the Raptors were not going to win?
Well, in the first quarter when they were losing.
Yeah, no, I get it. Sorry, it's a bad question, but because it was the Warriors were winning at the half, and then in the third quarter the Raptors went on a little bit of a run, and they got an 8-10 point lead, and then that's just how the game ended. The Warriors never had their pushback to get back in the game, which they usually do, right?
I want to talk about some of the injuries. Yes, they miss Kevin Durant. Obviously, you're going to miss a player like that. But I don't think they miss his offense. I think they miss his defense. Because Steph Curry has shown he can score 1 million points. And Klay Thompson yesterday, even though he wasn't 100%, he still scored 20-something points.
Yeah.
So I think they just miss Kevin Durant's defense is what it is.
Durant does a lot on defense. He's a bit an underrated defender just because he's so tall and he can kind of guard any position.
Right? He's almost like Kawhi.
And he's a shot blocking presence, because he's so long. I mean, but offensively, what they miss from Durant is because yesterday the recipe was all they did was bomb threes, the Warriors. And then when they're cold, then they lose, right? Mm-hmm. But Durant is the one guy who can actually actively drive to the basket. And you see what Kawhi Leonard's doing. He's getting fouled like crazy, right? And Durant would do that for the Warriors. For sure. He would go to the basket, he'd get to the line, he did his free throws. And it just changes. Sometimes, just going to the basket and getting fouled and hitting your 2 free throws changes the momentum of a run. Of course. Other teams on a big run, Lowry's very good at that. He identifies key situations. I've noticed it throughout the playoffs. He identifies key moments in the game. He's very smart. And he realizes he just wants to get a little break for a second for his team. Mm-hmm. He just puts his head down, he flies to the basket, he gets fouled, and then everyone has 30 seconds to breathe, and changes the crowd momentum, changes everything a little bit, sort of pushes pause for a sec.
You mentioned Kevon Looney. I think that's how his first name is pronounced.
Yeah, he's okay.
I thought this guy had a cracked rib and wasn't going to play again till September, so I don't understand how he even played.
Never mind a cracked rib. They said he had a separated shoulder.
Yeah, so how did he even play?
I don't know. either he's really, really injured and they shot him up with stuff so he couldn't even feel his shoulder moving. But I mean, if you have a separated shoulder, you can't even lift your shoulder over your head. Or someone was even saying he had a broken collarbone. I mean, that's even worse. That's like, so yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, but the other thing about
but can we talk about how the Raptors are playing well and not how it's just because Golden State's injured? Because I mean, Ibaka played amazing yesterday. Siakam had every game someone else is stepping up. Right? Siakam had a great game one. Ibaka yesterday was a monster. Leonard scores 30 every game automatically, right? And Lowry is playing tremendous at point guard, doing whatever he has to do.
You're so right. They are getting production from everyone. And someone who, like Danny Green, was so cold against Milwaukee. He's been so hot in this series.
Yeah. And he hasn't even been hot. Like, he had a couple of decent games, but like yesterday he was just so. But yesterday they had Ibaka, and then they have, well, I mean, can we talk about Fred VanVleet? I mean, this guy's looks like a superstar, you know?
They had to literally elbow him in the mouth to knock him out of the game.
God, did you see him? He's all bleeding and his tooth is on the floor.
Yeah, it didn't look pretty.
No, it did not look pretty at all.
And even you haven't mentioned Marc Gasol. This guy seems like he's the Marc Gasol from 10 years ago.
Yeah, Marc Gasol, I mean, he's been giving them great defense all playoffs because he's a tremendous, like, down low defender, shot blocker and everything, rebounder. And any offense he gives them is a bonus, right? And he's sort of found his game a little. I don't think he's a crazy dynamic player, but he's doing exactly what they need him to do. Like the other game, I forget if it was game, I guess it was game 3. Like, yeah, it was game 3 when Curry had like 40 whatever points, right? And then the next highest scorer on their team was like 12, 15. Like Draymond Green was in double figures and no one else was in double figures. No one else even had 10 points. And then you look over on the Raptors side and you see like Kawhi has 30 and then 15, 17, 14, 13. They have like 5-6 guys in double figures. You know, you can't win with if you're the Warriors with that recipe, you know? Someone else on the Warriors needs to get at least 15 points.
Well,
is it Iguodala? Is it like, well, you texted me because you were like, hey, is that Quinn Cook?
Quinn Cook had like 3 straight threes in about a span of like 30 seconds at one point.
I know, but when Quinn Cook is your second best offensive player, and don't get me wrong, I love Quinn Cook. The guy went to Duke. He's a national champion on Duke. And he was a tremendously underrated player on that Duke team that won it. You know, that was the team with Okafor, Justice Winslow, Tyus Jones, right? Like, and then Quinn Cook was like the senior, and all he did was hit threes all the time. And he fought his way to the NBA, right? He went to now it's called the G League, but I don't know if it was. And then managed to get himself a contract with the Warriors. Pretty good team, you know? So, but if he's your second best offensive player, you got problems.
But you're right. The Raptors are stepping up. And then the other thing, I didn't notice this. Kendrick Perkins tweeted something the other day. I don't know if you saw.
Guy's an idiot.
He might be an idiot, but he tweeted something very smart, actually.
Yeah.
He said, this was not after last night's game. This was after Wednesday's game.
Yeah.
He said, I saw something very scary tonight. And we're all like, what is he talking about, right? And he said, after the game, after the Raptors won, I saw them walking back to the locker room, and none of them were like high-fiving, and none of them were smiling, and none of them were laughing, and none of them were you know, they seemed like they weren't even in a good mood. Right. In other words, they had just won a game, and you'd think that you'd be all excited and happy, but they didn't care because they realized, oh, you know, we just won a game. It's not a big deal. Like, let's see if we can win 4 of these.
And the reaction was the same yesterday.
Yeah, it was very businesslike. Like they won the game and they just walked off the floor and went to the locker room.
But do you think they're taking their cue from their leader, who is Kawhi? And
I do. He's like the most stoic guy I've ever seen. You can't tell.
Stoic's a good word.
You can't tell if the guy's in a great mood or in a lousy mood. You can never tell.
You don't know.
The same all the time.
You don't know what this guy is thinking. All he does is just play, and he plays great.
But that's the right mentality to have, because if you're getting excited over one win, well then, you know, you're not going to win 4, because that's the thing. You have to win 4. And, you know, hopefully if they do win a 4th one, hopefully they will actually be happy and excited and celebrate.
Well, I'm sure they will at that point. They're just going to let it out.
But it's all about the mentality, and I think it's not just Kawhi. I saw some clips of Nick Nurse giving like pregame speeches in the locker room. I think he also has like a calming influence on the team as well, because you play like your coach, right? In some sports,
yeah, you do.
You behave the way your coach behaves. And so
look at the Patriots, right? I mean, Belichick sets the tone, and in the similar fashion, it's all business, right? And the Patriots as a team, and it comes from Brady too, because he takes that from his coach. It's like they approach the games like business, like they're there to do a job. Their slogan is "Do your job," right?
And with the Raptors, even times in the game where they're down by whatever, a bunch of points, double digits, they don't seem to panic whatsoever. I can't tell you what's going on inside, what sort of emotions are going through them as they're playing, but they always seem to be very calm and just, really, I am certainly surprised by what's happening.
Don't forget though, when you look at the starting five, right? Well, maybe it's not the starting five, but like at most times on the court, Kawhi is the youngest guy often on the court, right? You've got Gasol, who's been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Ibaka, who's a veteran. You got Lowry, who's in his 10th, 12th year in the league already, right? I forget who else I'm forgetting. Danny Green, that's the guy I'm forgetting. He's been around also forever. So, and then you have Kawhi, who's actually younger than all of them, right?
He is, but he's not exactly a kid.
No, he's not a kid, but I'm just saying, like, the Raptors are full of veterans. Like, these guys all want the championship. Ibaka struggled all those years on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, they thought they made it to the finals once, and then they never got back. Danny Green obviously has won on the Spurs, but and Lowry, I mean, who has a better story than Lowry? This is a guy who, he's been in the league forever. He's disrespected. People think he's fat, which maybe he is.
I don't think he's fat.
He's been an all-star, and he's kind of whenever anything went wrong for the Raptors, Lowry got the blame.
Yeah, him and DeRozan.
But Lowry got the blame. It's like, oh, Lowry couldn't step up. He couldn't hit the shot when they needed it. He couldn't do this when they needed it. And now they're on the brink of history. It's really exciting.
Listen, you know how they say all the planets aligned? All the planets have aligned. I mean, First of all, you had the Raptors acquiring Kawhi in the offseason.
Yeah.
Then you had LeBron, not necessarily in this order, but LeBron going to the Western Conference.
Right.
And now you have all these Warriors getting injured, and even though they're playing, none of them are playing at 100%.
Yeah, but then also the moves that they made, by bringing in Gasol, right?
Right, bringing in Gasol.
Mid-season.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this, obviously it's impossible for this to happen. I would have liked to have seen if LeBron had stayed with Cleveland with roughly the same team. You figure Cleveland and Toronto would have met in the conference finals again, because it seems like it happened, I don't know, 3-4 years in a row.
It's hard to say, though.
And I would have liked to have seen that matchup in a 7-game series to see what would have happened.
We just don't know if because obviously LeBron wasn't as good this year.
He wasn't, but he didn't have a supporting cast. And I know he didn't really have a good supporting cast last year either. But last year's, other 4 guys on the floor were better than this year's 4 guys on the floor.
Maybe they weren't better, but they knew how to play with LeBron, and they all knew their role, Whereas I feel like I don't want to get into a Lakers discussion. This is the last thing I want to get into.
Definitely not.
But I feel like on the Lakers, LeBron was playing a bunch of young guys that really just didn't know how to play when they were on the floor with him. Maybe it was an intimidation factor. Anyways, that's a podcast for another time.
So I have to say, you know how in post-game interviews and pre-game interviews in any sport, those are the most annoying things because a player never actually answers the question, first of all.
Well, and Kawhi Leonard actually never answers the question either.
Well, that's not so true. He actually does answer the question.
But he answers honestly. He's like, I don't know. Do you see the one where they're like, how's the team feeling right now? And he's like, I don't know. I haven't been in the locker room yet.
Well, that's a legitimate answer. It's a stupid question, actually. Part of the time, the questions are not good questions. So I don't fault the player all the time.
Right.
But there is one player, not on the Raptors, on the Warriors, that I have this newfound respect for, because every time he's asked a question, he actually answers the question. And you can tell it's not one of these prepackaged answers. Like, at the beginning of the season, the players are given like a book with like a bunch of different quotes. And they're like, okay, use this quote in this situation, use that quote in that situation, and only give quotes from this book.
Are you talking about Draymond Green?
100% I'm talking about Draymond Green. I actually love Draymond Green because at least he gives you an honest, truthful answer, and he doesn't read from the book.
When you see Draymond Green on the court and off the court, whether you like him or you don't like him, he is himself. He is, you see the true Draymond Green. You see his personality on the court. Yeah, maybe he's an asshole. Yeah, he picked up technical fouls when he shouldn't. But, like, that's part of his game, Like, he's emotional. If you try to tell him not to play with emotion, he's going to suck, right? This is how he plays, And you're right. They ask him questions in the press conferences, and he answers honestly.
Yeah,
right?
Good for him.
Yeah. Like I don't want to segue too much into, well, first of all, continue.
No, I was done with Draymond. I was just going to say, so if you have more about him, then go ahead.
No, I was going to segue into like some of the off the court.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, it doesn't matter how good the games are. The stuff that happens off the court in the NBA is always like front and center, more important than the game itself. And
well, I mean, it's been interesting that we've had 2 games without any talk about Drake.
No, but there's this new guy to talk about. This part owner in Oakland who shoved Kyle Lowry.
Can you imagine, like, if Drake did that, like, what the outrage would be?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, come on. And now this guy, well, look, they did come down hard on him.
Yes,
I give
they did.
the NBA a lot of credit. There's a huge fine. I read like $500,000.
Yeah, $500,000.
That's like crazy, right? And, well, I mean, if it was an actual paying fan, let's say I was there and I bought a ticket for $50,000, whatever the ticket is, to sit courtside. Obviously, they're not finding me $500,000.
No, but they're kicking you out of the game.
They are kicking me out of the game. They're finding this guy because he's the part owner and he needs to know better. Right.
I mean, I think technically Drake is an employee of the Raptors.
I think you're right.
But Drake never did anything.
No one seems to know about that.
Well, he never did anything, at least not this year.
No, he's just annoying. He
what
stands
that
up
guy
and
did.
he cheers. And
yes, he is annoying, and he does have a big mouth, but he hasn't touched any player on the opposing
team. He did touch. Was it Curry or Thompson when he picked a piece of fluff out of their hair?
It was Curry. But he was doing him a favor. He was taking something out of his hair. It wasn't like.
But that's all in good fun, though. That's not, that's not anything. Anyways, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see Drake tomorrow. Monday.
We should have done an episode last week because something I didn't even talk about.
Yeah.
It seems like Game 1 was eons ago.
It was, yeah.
This whole city, like the hype level in this city is something I've never seen in my entire life. Like,
I know you texted me before Game 1 and you were like, you can't imagine what's going on here.
Every single ESPN employee, I think, has been or was in Toronto for an entire week, it seemed. Like they were doing First Take and Rachel Nichols' show and Stephen A. Smith's show. They were all doing them live from Toronto. I think
that's not even counting the TNT guys like Barkley, Shaq. Those guys are there too.
Right, and TNT, they don't have the rights to the finals.
I know, but they're still there.
They're still here. So it's like the entire sports landscape from the United States has descended upon Toronto, and now they're going to come back because there's another game in Toronto on Monday.
And then we didn't even talk about Obama's at the game.
Obama's at the game. It's insane what's going on.
I mean, that's like, when I saw that he was there, I'm like, whoa, what the hell is going on,
And you'd have to be living under a rock to not know, like, what's going on. So a buddy of mine texted me the other day. He's like, are you going to watch the game tonight? And I said, there's a game tonight? And he, like, freaked out. He's like, what? I hope you're joking. Like, you don't know there's a game tonight? And I said, yeah, I'm kidding.
And boom goes the dynamite.
I mean, I know how it is. Like, I know how it is here in Montreal. Like, when the Habs are in the playoffs and they're making a deep run, right? And the series are getting tight. Like everybody like that works in an office or wherever you're working, you're like everybody's just talking about the playoffs. They're talking about the game tonight. They're talking about the last game. Where are you going to watch the game tonight? Like, and now like in Toronto, it's like actually it's taken over probably the whole country, right? Because people in Vancouver are flipping out and watching the Raptors, and in Saskatoon and in different, in Winnipeg and in Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, like everybody's like rallying around this team,
The difference is Montreal has won 24 Stanley Cups.
No, I know.
The Raptors have never done anything.
Yeah.
And the other difference is the Raptors are the only Canadian team in this league, and there are 7 Canadian teams in the NHL.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. So
what will happen if there's a parade? It's going to be crazy, no?
Well, there will be a parade if they win. For sure, there'll be one.
But I mean, it's going to be like a lot of people, no?
It's probably going to be like right in front of my office, actually.
That's great.
They'll probably go by there.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, all the hype that's going into this series is astronomical. I can't think of another word to describe it.
Wow. I mean, I have a lot more stuff I could say about the Raptors and the series in general. Like, if you want to get into like the X's and O's, I mean, there's so much to talk about too. But I mean, I don't know how much in depth you want to get in on the games and stuff, or if you want to talk about the NHL or have more to say about the Raptors.
I don't really have much more to say other than I'm just going to repeat something I said a few minutes ago. I really have no rooting interest in this series. Like,
it's interesting.
If Toronto wins or Toronto loses, like, I am not going to lose 1 minute of sleep either way.
But when you're watching, you're cheering for the Raptors. Right?
I'm not actually. I'm just like,
you're not.
I'm just like interested to see.
Okay.
I'm more interested, to be honest, I'm more interested in the St. Louis Boston hockey series because I actually hate the Bruins and I root so heavily for the Blues.
The National Hockey League.
You did a perfect segue into the Stanley Cup Finals. So what I was going to say about the Raptors, let's just forget about it. Let's just go into the hockey now. What I have to say can't hold a candle to your segue. It's too good.
So, I mean, I don't know. I've actually watched a lot of the finals.
I've watched a lot too.
And let me tell you, obviously, I don't have to tell you, this is not if you're faint of heart, this is not the series to watch because there's a lot of hitting and there's some
that's their game plan. Physically play as physical as possible.
Well, I think they have to because I actually paid close attention to the Blues last game. And I have to tell you, they're offensively challenged, this team. Like
they are for sure.
It's a miracle they've made it this far. And I think that miracle is Jordan Binnington because the Blues power play is, I think it's worse than the Montreal Canadiens power play. And I didn't think anything could be worse than that.
Yeah, their power play is really, it's ugly right now.
And even, just their regular 5-on-5, I'll see they'll make plays, they'll make passes. It's almost, it's like an NHL team playing against an AHL team.
But they're doing something right because like Bergeron, Pasternak, Marchand, they don't have any 5-on-5 points, I think.
They are doing a lot of things right. Like they're playing good defense. They have good goaltending. They're certainly doing a lot of things right. But I don't know, they've gone on this crazy run since January 2nd and they've just kept riding the wave. And you know how it is. A team gets hot. They just get hot and they can't be beat. But I still think, and I said this before the series started, I think on paper, the Bruins are definitely the better team.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think they are too. But like St. Louis is just finding a way to do it. They're just figuring out a way. Like some guys, like who's this guy that scored the goal the other night? Like no one even knows who this guy is. What's his name?
Are you talking about Sanford?
Yeah, Sanford. Like who's this guy Sanford? Like no, I didn't even know he existed before the playoffs.
Of course.
Like obviously, like. Ryan O'Reilly, Tarasenko, like Pietrangelo, even Colton Parayko, like I know all the, like I know their guys, Jaden Schwartz, but like who's this guy Sanford scoring goals all the time?
And going back to, again, it seems like game 1 of this series was also eons ago.
Yeah,
I know there have been a lot of like missed calls. We don't have to talk about the trip that wasn't called in the last game because everyone knows. I don't think it's as
big a deal as everyone's making.
But I don't know if you remember, I think it was game 1 where, let me just go to the notes here.
Yeah, do that.
Game 1 or game 2 where Torrey Krug, remember his helmet came off and then he ended up hitting a St. Louis player and the player went flying.
Yeah, he went flying.
And Torrey Krug must have taken about 18 strides, before
Yes,
he
I know
hit
exactly
the
the play you're talking about, and it should have, as it was happening, right after it happened, I'm like, how is that not like charging?
Right, and there was no penalty called on that at all.
Right? Because the thing without that play was, it wasn't, and this is where like the league always says this, that wasn't a hockey play. That was, Krug got destroyed, he picked himself up, he saw red, he was pissed, and he took, like you said, he went 50 feet across the ice to smash some guy into the boards.
Yeah.
Right? If that's not a penalty, then what is a penalty?
Right.
You know?
And
Like,
and there didn't seem to be like any uproar about that, like compared to
I
what
know.
happened in the last game.
that's the Bruins, because when things don't go their way, all they're going to do now is complain about that tripping call. And the opposite, it shows the professionalism of the Blues, because the Blues got screwed 10 times worse with that hand pass against San Jose. And instead of saying, oh no, woe is me, they went out and killed them the next game.
Right.
You know?
But I heard that Craig Berube, he did his best impersonation of Daryl Morey, the GM of the Rockets.
The Rockets? Yeah,
Because
why?
apparently after game, I don't know if it was after game 2 or 3, Berube complained about the officiating. And ever since then,
the
officials have been not calling as many penalties on the Blues.
Well, that happens in every sport, in every league.
It does.
You know?
It does.
Why do you think in the NBA, sorry to get back to basketball, like the refs, the coaches talk to the refs all game? You know, if I was an NBA ref, I would tell these coaches, do not talk to me. I do not want to talk to you, because they're in their ear all game complaining about stuff, because they're just like, they're like professional lobbyists in Washington. You know, they're just lobbying their case, hoping that like maybe the next call will go their way.
Yeah, Pat Riley was the guy who invented that.
I think so, yeah. As much as I think the Raptors have a stranglehold, the Blues have a definite advantage, you know, being up a game. I like their chances. You got to like their chances.
You got to like their chances. All of a sudden, this the Bruins power play, which was unreal. Like, not only were they scoring on every power play, they were scoring within like 5 seconds of the power play starting. Yeah. So all of a sudden, now their power play is non-existent. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. And how about this guy Binnington? He gets killed. They lose 7-2, and then he comes back. And all he does is make big saves, this guy, right?
Yeah, I had a feeling that he was really pissed off about that loss, about getting pulled. And I had a feeling he was going to bounce back and have a good game.
I'm happy. I hope St. Louis wins, just because, well, like you said, I hate Boston.
I also want to hear Gloria again.
Was it something that he said? All the voices in your head.
Yeah, Gloria is a great story. Just the Blues never winning before as a franchise, you know, and like they have a tremendous record, right? Like, what did I read? Something like they've been in the playoffs like almost every year, right?
Who?
The Blues. They're always in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they did have a one-time a streak of consecutive
like
years,
38 out of 40 years or
making the
something.
playoffs. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, they're always good, but they've never been great. And then times where they were great, they lost in the playoffs when they had really good regular seasons. And now this team, out of nowhere, kind of like just took the playoffs by storm, you know?
It just goes to show you, and we said this before, the regular season doesn't really mean much.
No, it doesn't in terms of your record and where you get placed. But of all the regular seasons, the National Hockey League means the most in terms of it's so close and so hard to make the playoffs that you can't just blow off regular season games. Otherwise, you're not going to be in the playoffs, right?
Right. I mean, the difference between the 8th place team and the 9th place team and even the 10th place team is very, very slim.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I didn't look at the NBA standings, but I don't know that the difference is as slim in the NBA.
Usually for that 8th and 9th spot, it's close, but
the
often the playoff spots are decided, you know, well in advance.
Part of the reason why the standings are so close in the NHL is because you get a point for losing.
Exactly. That loser point for overtime games and shootouts and stuff. That's like the great equalizer, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's why you can never know who's actually in the playoffs until the last weekend of the season.
that's correct. You are correct.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Zdeno Chara playing like with a broken jaw?
Okay, so here's my take on this. Everyone's making such a big deal over like, how can he play with a broken jaw? But you don't need your jaw to play hockey. Like
No,
if
but it's
if
certainly
you've watched
painful
hockey
and-
for as long as you've watched hockey, You've
Yeah.
seen like broken noses and stuff, and like guys lose teeth, and they still play because you don't need that stuff to play.
On the radio here in Montreal, they talked about it, and obviously there's a lot of hate towards Chara, but they were saying that, like, I think if one of the guys on the radio was saying, like, he gave like 5 examples of other players that played with broken jaws in the playoffs.
Well, I know 1. I don't know 5.
Well, who do you remember?
Derek
I remember
Stepan.
Derek Stepan, but I remember back in the day Shane Corson, right? And they gave a bunch of examples, so I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it could happen.
It's.
you know?
I mean, obviously you don't want to get hit there again, and he's wearing that special shield, but you don't need to talk in order to play hockey.
No, but I think it's just painful. I mean, yeah.
I don't even know.
But
I don't even know if it's painful. I just think obviously he can't eat solid food.
I think it's just awkward
For
you know,
sure.
for him on the ice
For
with
sure.
this big thing on his head. And
Yeah, it's harder to see because you have to look down at your skates, and if you're wearing something, it's definitely harder to see.
yeah.
But you know, it'd be harder to play with a broken leg than it
Yeah.
would with a broken jaw.
But do you think it was like a bit of a distraction? Not a distraction. That's the wrong word. Because they manipulated their lineup to make sure Chara could play, right?
Right. Well, I think putting him in the lineup was actually a good idea because it was inspirational for the rest of the guys on the team. But
Yeah.
they used 7 defensemen and they used one
Exactly.
less forward.
Yeah.
So-
it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, you've seen coaches do that anyways sometimes.
Man, but
because,
you don't need 7 defensemen. Sometimes you don't even need 6 defensemen. You can play with 5.
Well, you could. But, I mean, you also don't need that 12th forward, maybe. You know.
I guess.
And maybe, you know, Marchand or Pasternak or Bergeron are taking an extra shift, which is never a bad thing.
Right,
you know, so,
right.
Yeah. Look, like I said, I hope the Blues win.
Me too. Me too.
and then by this time next week, actually on our next episode, if we have 2 champions crowned, like what are we going to talk about?
Well, we'll talk about both of them.
No, but I mean, what are we going to talk about all summer?
Oh, we'll take a summer hiatus.
We'll have to really get into baseball.
Actually,
or
you
golf,
know what we'll talk about? We'll talk about what I'm about to talk about now.
which is
I heard a rumor, and this is not an NBA rumor, so the chances of it happening are slim.
okay.
But it's about NHL free agency.
Okay.
And this rumor actually scares me.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that the Canadians are going to make an offer to Erik Karlsson.
Well, it's not a rumor. Carlson actually came out and said, I don't know if he said it on Twitter or if he said it to a reporter in San Jose, that he's expecting to have big contract offers from Ottawa and Montreal.
Okay, well, I don't know
It
why.
came from him. It came from him.
So I don't know why he said that. I can understand why he would
Well,
say
because
Ottawa because he played.
his wife / girlfriend.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're actually technically married. She's from Ottawa.
Okay.
And she wants to be close to home. She wants them to move closer back to home.
Okay, so but I don't know how Montreal got into this mix.
Well, it's only, less than 2 hours away from Ottawa.
But I think if the Canadians made him an offer, that would be a huge mistake.
Well, he seems to be fragile.
Like he's not the player he used
I don't
to
know.
be.
Like if I have this big pot of money, and I'm gonna make like my one defining huge free agent signing,
Mm-hmm.
if I want it to be Erik Karlsson. And that being said, like a couple years ago, this was the best player in the league.
Yeah, 2-3 years ago he might have been, but
But
not
I don't
anymore.
think
He
anymore.
had the ankle injury. Now he has the groin injury. He's damaged goods. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two. First of all, I don't see how the Canadians even have enough cap space to sign this guy.
They've been under the cap the last couple of years.
I know.
Although, I mean, that's a big amount of money, but I mean, they'll figure that out, I guess.
Like haven't they learned any lessons from the Carey Price contract and from the Shea Weber contract?
I don't know. I guess not.
You're already hamstrung by these 2 huge contracts. You're going to go and sign a third one?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be a huge mistake if the Canadians made him an offer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Canadians haven't come out and said that they're interested. It came from Carlson's side.
Especially, by the way, because of his health issues. Like, if you want to offer this guy a 1-year deal,
Yeah.
then
Prove me.
That
But
would- I would be
But
okay.
he's not signing a 1-year deal.
no,
with
he's
anybody.
not. But I'm saying if they offered him a 1-year deal, I might be okay with that. Because then
Yeah.
at least whatever huge amount of money you're giving him, it comes off the books a year later.
Yeah.
But for the Canadians to offer this guy a long-term deal, they should be doing the opposite. They should be trying to unload Carey Price and Shea Weber, not signing more veteran, huge free agent contracts.
Yeah. The thing I don't get about Carlson saying like he's expecting an offer from Ottawa. That's ridiculous. First of all, why would he want to go back to Ottawa? Him and Eugene Melnyk said all kinds of stuff about each other when Carlson, like when he got traded, like when he left Ottawa, where he got traded basically. And like, why would you want to go back to Ottawa? It's a ridiculous franchise that has no money. And the only reason why they got rid of you in the first place is because they didn't want to pay you. So why would they want to pay you now? Like, that's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
They got rid of him because they didn't want to pay him.
So
why would they be interested in him as a free agent? Like, it makes no sense.
It's a good question. And I don't know how many offers he's going to get. It might be like a Bryce Harper situation.
Maybe he's just trying to like up the offers because
maybe.
In Montreal there's always this conspiracy theory among Habs fans that the Habs are in or implicated in the media or on social media in all kinds of moves and they're not involved, and it's often the other team's agents that are like, oh, the Habs are interested. For 5 years in a row I heard Jaromir Jagr's coming here.
Oh yeah, I remember those rumors.
Right? Every year Jaromir Jagr's coming here. And it was always like I feel it was always Jagr's agent saying, "Oh, I gotta get an offer from Montreal. You better pay us." You know.
But you're right. The player or the agent might just be saying that to try to get other teams to increase their offers.
Who knows? Who knows?
By the way, can we switch to baseball?
Major League Baseball.
Oh, sure. I haven't watched anything. I mean,
No. It has nothing to do with watching. Like right now, that Bryce Harper signing, and I think I said this at the time. That could be one of the worst offseason signings in the history of baseball.
Well,
and
the
the
Phillies are
Manny
doing
Machado
well,
signing as well.
But the Phillies are doing well regardless.
The Phillies are doing well, but Bryce Harper isn't doing so well. Manny Machado isn't doing so well.
Yeah, you're
like
right.
if you're like you signed this guy for 13 years for I don't even remember how much money.
A lot of money.
You're not getting your money's worth so far.
No, you're really not.
And he's at a stage in his life like I don't think he's going to be getting better as he gets older.
You're right. If anything, he's going to get worse, right?
Right. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm a fan, I don't really care because I'm not the one paying his money, paying his salary.
Yeah. But if they don't win some stuff, like, I mean, they're winning the division, but I mean, as soon as things go bad for the Phillies, Bryce Harper's getting the blame.
Well, yeah, but they can't trade him. Like, you can't trade that contract.
No, impossible. I mean, unless they trade him straight up for Machado, I guess.
Right, whatever.
So is that it? That's all your baseball notes?
No, it was just, because we were talking about free agent signings, and I actually do have a couple other baseball notes.
Sure, yeah.
You know how I like to talk about injuries because sometimes it seems that baseball players sustain injuries in the strangest ways.
Yeah, you mentioned last year about the catcher on the Royals. He hurt his back carrying his luggage.
Right, and then I think it was Anthony Rizzo who hurt his back sleeping at a hotel.
I understand that because sometimes hotel beds can be really bad.
Okay, well, listen to this one.
And I'm sure the Cubs, they're probably staying. I'm sure the Cubs players stay in like Motel 6, right?
Right, of course, because they can't afford to stay in nice hotels.
Yeah.
Here's one that I found interesting. This happened a week or two ago. Carlos Correa sustained a fractured rib. He's going to be sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks. He sustained the injury while getting a massage at his home. This is not a joke, I swear.
What kind of massage is it?
I don't know.
Because isn't a massage supposed to be like...
On your back.
No, but I mean like, that's supposed to be therapeutic. It's supposed to help you not be injured.
Right. Well,
yeah.
When I read this, I'm like, is this for real?
Did the Astros have a case to sue the masseuse?
I don't even know because it was at his home, so maybe it was a private masseuse.
I don't want to get X-rated here, but there's a lot of ways we could go with this.
Of course. and then this is not a laughing matter. I don't want to, I know I'm segueing from one thing to the other, but this is actually quite serious. This just happened 2 days ago. I don't know if you heard Mitch Haniger, he fouled a pitch off himself.
Yeah.
And now he has a ruptured testicle.
That is serious.
It's very serious and it's very painful. I feel bad for him.
Yikes. And it's sad because it's like it's going to be it's a serious injury, but it's hard not to make jokes about it.
Right, right.
Yeah. I hear you.
Soccer.
So do you want to do your Champions League final recap?
Well, Liverpool won.
I know. Were you excited? Were you happy?
Very excited. I snuck away from what I was doing in Chicago for my work and I watched the game in my room. And actually I had to actually figure out how I was going to watch it. I didn't know what channel it's on I watch it here in Canada on DAZN.
Okay.
Like, I subscribe to the DAZN just for Champions League.
Okay. So you can't use the zone when you're in the States?
No, it does not work in the US DAZN doesn't carry Champions League.
So how
But
did you get it?
it was on TNT.
Ah.
And you know who was one of the color commentators?
Charles Barkley?
Well, like Steve Nash.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. NBA Hall of Famer or soon to be, whatever. I mean, Liverpool deserved it. They had a historic season. They lost the league by 1 point, and with a record that would have won their league pretty much any other year in the last 50 years. The record they had would have won the league. Mm-hmm. They went right down to the last game of the season, and they had a great run in the Champions League. I don't know if you're aware. They lost the Champions League final last year to Real Madrid.
I wasn't aware.
So it was like unfinished business, you know? But it was a super boring game.
Oh.
I think that happens because they were playing Tottenham, who's a team in their league. And sometimes that familiarity, for whatever reason, the game was boring. And they deserved to win, and it was great. And the celebration was epic. And I was thinking about you during the celebration.
Why?
Because you have all these guys who make millions of dollars, and they're all there with the trophy celebrating like little kids. You know, so when you say, and I know you've said it, and for the most part, I do agree with you, all the players think about is money. Mm-hmm. When you see the celebration and how happy they were and how much that trophy meant to them, it's not just all about the money. They wanted that championship, you know, and they deserved it.
I believe that they were very happy. I believe that they were truly, you know, excited about winning. I do believe that. But at the same time, if you talk to... maybe not the players that lost that game, because the players who lost that game were obviously upset. But if you talk to players who don't make the playoffs at all, and they start their summer vacation early, I don't think they really care that, you know, oh, so we didn't make the playoffs. All right, so now I can go and
a lot of times
I can go to my cottage, you know, a month earlier and get started on my fishing, or playing golf.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, I guess every athlete's different, but I mean, when you saw how much it meant to them and the tears and like tears of joy and tears of sadness on the other side, and it's just it was very emotional, and I was very happy for Liverpool because, like, I don't want to get into the whole story. Everyone in England hates them. Mm-hmm. Liverpool's like
the Yankees.
They're like but they haven't won in many years. Mm-hmm. You know, they haven't won a championship of their league in forever. And the last Champions League, I think, was maybe like 2005 or something. I don't remember. But, I mean, they just get a lot of... people love to hate them. And they proved everybody wrong, you know. And I think it's like... they just... like, it was unfinished business after last year, you know.
So I did some research, and I wrote down some notes here.
Oh, God. Yeah, let's hear it.
I think this is the Champions League, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Cardiff City, Fulham, and Huddersfield are now relegated.
Oh, that's the Premier League.
Sorry, I'm mixing up two leagues. I apologize.
They're relegated. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big blow to those teams.
Well, financially, yes, because there's going to be 3 teams coming up who are playing in the Division 1, which they call the Championship, by the way. That are all of a sudden those teams are making millions now. The TV rights, the revenue, the gate revenue. It's like when these teams come up, it's like the financially the owners are like, wow, they're like, it's a huge difference, you know. And it's a huge blow for like Cardiff, who's been up and down a few times already. Fulham, who's also been up and down a few times. Who else did you say is the other one?
Huddersfield, I think.
Oh, Huddersfield only got promoted like a couple of years ago. And they were a big story because the owner was like, now we're going to finally make the millions. Now they're back down, you know, so whatever.
Now, if the NBA and the NHL want to prevent tanking, this is what they need to do. This is the only way to prevent tanking. Yeah. You say that the bottom 2 or 3 or 4 teams, you're relegated to a different league, then you'll see now teams will not tank anymore.
You are 100% right. Now, the infrastructure is not there, right? Because there is no other league.
Well, there's the American Hockey League.
I know, but like, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, because what happens is, okay, the end of the season. This season in the Premier League, it went down to the last game of the season for the championship, right? So there was a lot of drama. Mm-hmm. But last year there wasn't. Last year with 3 weeks to go, it was over, right? Man City won, and they won by a mile, and there was nothing to play for. But there is something to play for those bottom 3, or let's say the bottom 5.
Yeah.
Because they're fighting for their life.
Yeah.
To stay they're fighting for their life to stay relevant, you know?
For sure.
And it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Well, that happened to us in softball all the years back. We were in like, our team was in the A division, and then we didn't want to go down to the B division, you know, because it was like, oh, it's like a blow to our pride, not financially, but you know, yeah. Before we sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course, Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com.
We leave you with this.
So, Skip, you'll be happy to know, and I hope you noticed it yourself, that your buddy, Randy Watkins, has resurfaced during the NBA playoffs.
It's amazing. I love this guy. The commercials are great.
You loved him during March Madness. Now he's
I
back
loved
for
him.
the NBA playoffs.
They're good. They're good commercials.
He's like the coolest guy, this guy.
It's just, I mean, I like the NCAA commercial, especially the first one, better.
Well, because he
you
mentioned
fe-
the Sweet 16, and it
No,
ended
but
up being
even
like...
that one. But there's the first ones, because you didn't actually know for sure if it's real or not, or it's scripted. And then the Sweet 16 one, I was like, oh, this is made up, right?
Yeah.
So that took away like the realism of it. But like the new commercials are good.
But I'm happy to see him back. I haven't seen him since March.
It's like our old friend.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting reunited with an old friend. So you've been watching on the American networks.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I switch back and forth. I do find the picture quality, for whatever reason, maybe it's the feed that I get from Videotron, like my cable provider for ABC. Picture quality is night and day. I can't even watch on ABC. I feel like I'm watching like in standard definition.
The picture quality is better on Sportsnet and TSN because it's in 4K.
Yeah, even if you're watching not in 4K, it's still like the
Right.
4K cameras and the whole deal. Yeah.
But I actually find the audio, I find it better on ABC.
A lot of people said that. I went online and I saw people were having the same comments. Yeah.
And I can't
So-
stand, what's his name? I don't even remember his name. Whoever, the
Rod
Canadian.
Black,
Not him, because he doesn't do the play-by-play.
Leo Routens, Jack Armstrong.
That's it, thank you.
Get that out of here!
Everyone loves that guy in Toronto, but I don't know why.
I like him. I like him. I don't mind him.
Okay.
I mean, but yeah, I've been switching back and forth. But I really don't like Mark Jackson at all. And it just, oh.
I like those guys, Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy.
Van Gundy's good, but Jackson, he rubs me the wrong way.
Okay.
I mean, and whoever they usually have, who's the play-by-play, Mike Green, he's good.
Okay.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about Jurassic Park at all.
There's like 17,000 Jurassic Parks now. There's not just one.
Oh, there's many. There's several in Toronto.
There's like in Mississauga, in Brampton,
Yeah.
and Oakville, and I don't even know where they are.
all the places where the Raptors guys hit their threes from, you know? Cause,
Exactly,
you know, Matt-
yes. Matt Devlin, yeah.
But did you see some of the signs?
I saw one that said poutine, but I didn't understand it.
There's some really incredibly interesting signs. Like someone had a sign. Okay, so someone had a sign of a box of Kraft dinner.
Okay.
And by the way, for American listeners, Kraft dinner in your country is called Kraft macaroni and cheese. But in Canada, it's actually called Kraft dinner. And so the guy had a sign saying the only KD in Canada is Kraft dinner, like
Okay.
instead of Kevin Durant.
Right.
And then the best one. You never watched SpongeBob, did you?
No, but I know about it. A little
Okay,
bit.
so there's this episode of SpongeBob where the working conditions at the Krusty Krab where SpongeBob works are bad, so SpongeBob wants to go on strike.
Mm-hmm.
So he has his sign says Krusty Krab is unfair. So there's a sign there in Jurassic Park. Nothing to do with basketball, nothing to do with anything. Solidarity with SpongeBob with a sign that says Krusty Krab is unfair. That's all it
That's
says.
actually quite
I
funny.
mean, if you didn't ever know that show or watch that episode, like I saw that sign, I'm like, oh my god, this is brilliant. But like half the people, 500,000 people are watching saying, what the hell does that mean?
This is, in the history of podcasts, no one has gone this deep into SpongeBob.
There's probably like 60, there's probably at least 50 SpongeBob podcasts.
Really?
I wonder if they're talking about this.
Maybe I should
They
go
don't even-
back and start watching the whole series from the first episode.
Anybody who does a SpongeBob podcast probably does not watching the NBA Finals and doesn't even realize about that sign.
Can I get SpongeBob on Netflix?
I don't know. It's not worth watching,
Okay.
honestly. It's like you lose brain cells by watching.
I should watch one episode
Yeah.
just to see what
Text
I'm missing.
Matthew and Selena and ask them which episodes are good. They'll tell you.
Okay. Hey, by the way, speaking of Matthew, like now that the Sixers are out and the Canadians are out, does he even watch the playoffs in
Yeah,
hockey?
they watch every game. Oh, the hockey playoffs?
the hockey and basketball.
Not really the hockey, no. But yeah, the basketball, they watch every game. Like, all his friends get together. They even went to, like, a sports bar the other night to watch.
Oh, okay.
And, like, casual sport. And I mean, he is cheering for the Raptors. Reluctantly.
Oh, really?
Because,
Okay.
Yeah, I think he got... I mean, just even though they beat the Sixers and he hated the Raptors when they were playing the Sixers,
Mm-hmm.
he got swept up in, what we talked about,
The hype.
half an hour ago, the hype. Yeah.
So there's one other commercial that I see a lot during
Oh my
the
God,
playoffs.
we're going long. Yeah,
I
which
know.
one?
Have you seen the Walmart commercial where all these different cars from all these different movies show up to pick up their
Yeah,
order?
that's okay.
Yeah, I like that commercial.
You do?
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right.
All right.
I've seen that one. All right. I'll talk to you next week, and hopefully by then we'll have a Stanley Cup champion and an NBA Finals
I
champion.
think we have to. I think they're both over by the time we speak next.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.